Hello, I am Eddie O'Sullivan, and this is This Week in the Italian Campaign. In This Week in the Italian Campaign are brought to you by the Freedom for Italy Network. Episode 70, the plan for Operation Grapeshot and the preliminary attacks in April 1945. On the 24th of March, detailed orders for the Allied offensive were issued by 15th Army Group Commander Mark Clark. D-Day was set for the 10th of April, but this was later changed to the 9th of April. The offensive was named Operation Grapeshot. The strategic goals were divided into three phases. Phase 1 called for the breaching of the Santerno River defences by the 8th Army and the advance of the 5th Army from the mountains into the Po Valley, including the capture or isolation of Bologna. Phase 2 envisaged a breakthrough by either or both armies to encircle German forces south of the Po River. The final phase would include both the crossing of the Po and the capture of Verona. For the 8th Army, the plan called for the Senio and Santerno rivers to be crossed and two main thrusts northeast of Bologna, one towards Budrio and another along Highway 16. This attack was to be directed through the Argenta Gap, a strip of dry land between the Reno River and Lake Comacchio, which the Germans had deliberately flooded and was more than double its present area. Phase 2 of 8th Army operations included blocking escape routes over the Reno River and over the Po at Ferrara and Bologna. The 8th Army's assault was named Operation Buckland. The 5th Army plan, named Operation Craftsman, was to start at 24 hours notice any time after D-Day plus 2. Its principal Phase 1 mission was to break the German mountain line and reach the Po Valley. The secondary goal was the capture or isolation of Bologna. In Phase 2, the 5th Army was to drive in the corridor between the Reno and Ferrara rivers and strike east along the Po to join the 8th Army in the Bologna or Ferrara area to complete the encirclement of Axis forces. After the capture of the road junction of San Giovanni, 10 miles northwest of Bologna, a secondary effort was to seize crossings over the Panaro River to the west and then move to the north again in the corridor between the Panaro and Secchia rivers towards the Po at Ostiglia. Naval support on both coasts was to deceive the Germans into believing amphibious landings were about to be undertaken on the spit separating Lake Comacchio from the Adriatic Sea on the east and near Chiavari on the Ligurian Sea on the west. This was to be reinforced by diversionary attacks in both places. A program of deception created the illusion that two corps composed of the 85th and 88th Divisions and supporting units was moving to join the 8th Army, and that the entire 5th Army front had been taken over by 4 corps. A 20-day program of increased artillery fire was put into effect that progressively built up until the final week preceding D-Day, when the earlier rate of fire was doubled. These programs were carried on in conjunction with infantry raids. Axis forces were entrenched and almost equal to the Allies in infantry and artillery. Only in armour and air power did the Allies have a clear-cut advantage. On the respective D-Days for 8th and 5th Armies, heavy bombers were to strike forward enemy areas. While they disrupted supply lines, fighter bombers and medium bombers would carry out a heavy, sudden blitz against command posts, dumps, gun installations and other Axis assets. To promote cooperation between land and air forces, operational headquarters for tactical fighter bombers were installed next to those of army commanders. A 5-day stock of ammunition was built up in the forward supply points. Tankage for 100,000 gallons of fuel was built. River crossing training schools were established and specialized equipment brought up, including tracked landing vehicles and amphibian tanks. Plans were laid in case there was a formal Axis surrender, including reserve rations to feed prisoners for 30 days. Administrative plans for the occupation of northern Italy, the imposition of military government, and the handling of civilian supplies and refugees were published. Ahead of D-Day, preliminary operations that were also diversionary were launched by both Allied armies. On the night of Sunday, the 1st of April, the 2nd Commando Brigade was ordered to capture the spit between Lake Comacchio and the Adriatic Sea to secure the 8th Army's flank and create the impression its attack was to be along the coast. The Germans had about 1,200 men entrenched on the spit. Number 40 Commando, in a feint attack to the south, crossed the River Reno and held its north bank with the support of the partisan 28th Garibaldi Brigade and tanks of the North Irish Horse. Number 43 Commando meanwhile attacked up a tongue of land to the east, which forms the south bank of the Reno estuary, crossed the mouth of the Reno and turned back to clear the north bank, moving towards one flank of Number 40. Number 2 and Number 9 Commandos crossed the lagoon from the southwest to the middle of the spit. Number 2 was to land above the Bologna Canal, head south and capture 2 bridges across it to block German reinforcements. Number 9 Commando was to land south of the canal, then head south along the lagoon shore and down the centre of the spit to clear all positions towards the line held by Number 40. Due to the low water level and muddy lagoon bottom, the commandos were forced to manhandle their boats to reach the spit and arrived at first light, 4 hours behind schedule. The commandos took their objectives, though the Germans blew up one bridge before it was captured. That evening, 9 and 43 commandos moved up to the bridges on the Bologna Canal held by 2 commando. The following day, the blown bridge was repaired and the commandos moved over the canal, supported by tanks of the North Irish Horse. Number 2 Commando advanced north on the lagoon side of Comacchio, while 43 Commando moved along the Adriatic side. 9 Commando was placed in reserve to execute an attack on Port Garibaldi after the Valletta Canal had been captured. The north bank of the Valletta was heavily defended and would require a full-scale attack. Commandos cleared all positions up to the Valletta Canal. During the fighting, Corporal Thomas Hunter of Number 43 Commando earned a posthumous Victoria Cross for single-handedly clearing a farmstead. As part of Operation Roast on the 8th of April, Major Anders Larsen of the Special Boat Service, who had previously won the Military Cross in 2 bars, was killed leading a raid on the north shore of Lake Comacchio, designed to convince the Germans that the main attack was to take place there. He too was awarded the Victoria Cross. Both Hunter and Larsen are buried in the Argenta War Cemetery. A further preliminary attack ahead of the main 8th Army offensive was launched by 56th Division over the Reno River to the west of Lake Comacchio on the night of the 5th of April. The 1st Battalion of the London Irish Rifles in 167 Brigade crossed the river following an artillery and mortar barrage supported by machine gun and Bofors gunfire. By dawn on the 6th of April, 167 Brigade, which also included the 9th Battalion of the Royal Fusiliers and the 1st Battalion of the London Scottish, had a bridgehead 1.5 miles deep. 167 Brigade advanced steadily to reach the confluence of the Reno and the Santerno rivers on the 13th of April. On the 5th Army front, a limited objective attack was launched at 5 o'clock in the morning of the 5th of April along the Ligurian coast to take Massa and then continue toward La Spezia. A 10-minute artillery barrage accompanied the jump-off. 370 infantry advanced up Highway 1 from Crocetta with the support of 894 tank destroyer and 760 tank battalions. Attempts to take Stratoia failed. In the meantime, 442 infantry advanced north and west of Vezzano with its 100th battalion, comprising mainly soldiers of Japanese descent, attacking frontally, and its 3rd battalion making an enveloping move around the 2,800-foot Monte Fragilita. Bombing and strafing attacks by 12 Tactical Air Command, plus fire from 2 British destroyers firing on Marina di Massa, pillboxes, and positions around Castello Agenolfi provided support. The next day, the 3rd Battalion from the north and the 100th Battalion from the south attacked Monte Cereta. The 2nd Battalion was committed on the afternoon of the 6th of April to capture Monte Belvedere, a 2,800-foot peak overlooking Massa. The 2nd Battalion of 473 Infantry spearheaded a fresh attack along Highway 1 on the 7th of April. It advanced 2,000 yards and seized strong points on the Stratoia Hill Mass. Tanks and tank destroyers on Highway 1 were checked by minefields and anti-tank fire. German coastal guns at Punta Bianca maintained damaging fire despite attacks for 4 successive days by medium bombers. On the 8th of April, 370 Infantry and 473 Infantry swapped sectors. Along the Cinquale Canal, the 2nd Battalion of 370 Infantry relieved the 2nd Battalion of 371 Infantry, which moved to Forco on the right. The 1st Battalion of 473 Infantry, supported by medium tanks of 760 Tank Battalion, attacked up Highway 1 and entered the outskirts of Massa on the 9th of April. Tanks of the 758 and 760 Tank Battalions reached the centre of the town before being forced to withdraw. Through the mountains on the right, 442 Infantry advanced towards the Frigido River under artillery and mortar fire. Outflanked from the east, Massa was evacuated and occupied on the morning of the 10th of April by 473 Infantry. The advance on the Ligurian coast was to continue until the 15th of April, but by this point, the real Allied offensive had started with attacks across the Senio and Santerno rivers by the 8th Army. That story will be told in the next episode of This Week in the Italian Campaign. Well, that sets the scene for what was going to be the largest offensive of the Second World War in Italy, and it began on the 9th of April 1945 with the 8th Army's attack, and this was followed by the 5th Army's attack in the middle to Bologna and beyond. And this set the scene for a tremendous crescendo in the fighting in Italy, which eventually led to the end of the war in Italy on the 2nd of May 1945. Now, I'm going to be telling that story in 5 consecutive episodes, so tune in every week at this time if you want to watch it live. And we will be covering in detail all the chronology of the fighting in this period. And the final episode is going to be broadcast from Rome, where I will be live on the 2nd of May, attending the Peace in Italy conference, which has been organised in the Armed Forces Club in Rome to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the war in Italy to the very day, almost to the hour. So if you're in Rome at that time, please come and join us. So that will be the 5th episode. Before that, I will be leading the Monte Cassino to Rome Peace Walk with colleagues from Britain, America, and elsewhere. And we will be starting from the Abbey of Monte Cassino on the 22nd of April. And we'll be arriving in St. Peter's Square on the 30th of April to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the war in Italy. So that's something, if you're in the area as well, you can join us at any point. If you want to know more, contact me directly. You can do that through this site.
After that, on the 10th of May in London, I'm organising with partners the Peace in Europe conference to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War as a whole. We've got more than 20 great speakers. The conference has been held in the London Scottish House on Horseferry Road in Victoria, very close to Victoria Station. Admission is free for registered delegates. So if you wish to come, go to the Eventbrite site, just key in the Peace in Europe conference and book your seat, because it's free, but you have to be registered to get in on the 10th of May. So plenty of things to look forward to. But anyway, that's it for this week. I will be back next week with another episode. So from everybody here this week in the Italian campaign, it's goodbye, good luck, and may God bless you all.